So what this process is called CEP. Does that mean something to you? Contextual engagement process. So what is that? Contextual just means you do it where you are. It's a process, so that means it's a method of doing things. And so it's a method of doing things and interacting with your surroundings. And here's what I'm proposing. I say that we've been doing this for 2 years now. We just didn't know what it was called. We've been, think about it. If you go back, we've been getting together and we've actually immersed ourselves in this environment. As soon as we could quit meeting at my house, we started meeting here. Even when it was not attractive, we still met in this space and we thought about the surroundings and dreamed of what could be. So this is just a process. The whole point, a big point of my class is that sometimes we're in a place that we're so familiar with it, we don't see things. And I have one example, like we stop seeing it, and it doesn't take very long. Like in this room, we all got very comfortable with the way this room looked. And when Mike and I worked and installed the lights, some of us came into the room and didn't see them. We weren't expecting to see them. We were just so familiar with the room, the way it looked, we just didn't even see those lights. And we were disappointed because hey, look at those lights. We just put them in. Then once you just get familiar. You just get so familiar of seeing things in your own house that you don't, and you start seeing it different when maybe you're going to have company. And you go, oh. You start trying to look at your house through different eyes. And you're going, oh, so-and-so's coming over. Oh, that looks terrible. You've been walking past it for days or weeks or months, and it was fine because you were so familiar you didn't see it anymore. But then when something changes, all of a sudden you want to change that. So thank you. So CEP is a way to like raise our awareness and pay attention in a new way. And it has 7 parts. You ready for this? And they all start with the letter D. And there will be a quiz at the end. Okay, so first phase has 3 parts. The D is to describe the place, discover connections, and discern the call. And the next phase is dreaming, deciding, and then doing it. And the last phase is kind of like evaluating and debriefing. So I want to go over each of those 7 Ds and see if we can figure it out. We start in the beginning when we were sitting around think about in the very beginning when we first started meeting together and dreaming about the future, before we even made a decision to buy the property. We were negotiating and thinking about it, but we actually went through this process. We went through it all. We might not have gone through it in that order, and that's okay too. You don't have to go about it in that order, but I think we processed all those things. We took a look at the place. We tried to make connections, like how could we use this place? When it says discern the call, that doesn't mean like a lifelong calling. It's just, what could we do with this? What are we being called to do in this place? It can be a little thing, or it can be a big thing. It could be a one morning, what am I being called to do this morning? Or it could be, what am I being called to do this week? It could be big or small. Dreaming about the preferred future or outcome. I love the definition of planning. A plan gives you something to deviate from. So then we made a decision to act, and now we're doing it. and we've been reviewing and evaluating what's been done and what's going to happen. So I'm going to go back through all of those phases, all of those Ds, and just ask you if you have a thought to talk about it. How did we go about describing the place, maybe to others, or how did we get a full sense of this setting? What are some of the things that we did to get a full sense of the property we were thinking about buying?
We told people what to expect in the future, in the upcoming future. Might take a while, but telling everybody what this section of the restaurant was, or the building was for, and that section, and the building out there, and the motel, and just letting everybody know what our intent was for the town.
Yeah. Casting that vision to sharing it with other people. That's a big part of it.
And it was, and now it is at a different place than it was. Oh yeah. And I expect it to be much greater beyond where we are. The three things that you're talking about, you know, it's here, it's there, and it's going on. And we can see it happening.
It was a familiar place, and it used to be a thriving place, and to bring new life back into it in a different way. And it's, because it's going to be totally different from what it was, but it'll still be thriving and helping.
Last week, you said something I don't know if you said it at the restaurant, whatever it was significant to me because I wrote it in my journal. I told you, I write about people. You said it sounds like buddies. You were hearing the sounds that it sounded like buddies, which was the community spirit, the fellowship, the eating, the clinking of dishes or whatever to you reminded you of buddies. And so that was, I thought that was an interesting comment, so I wrote that one down.
And it did, because it was exciting to see everybody there, and everybody, because most everybody knew everybody, and it was community. And it brought back a lot of memories.
For me, it was maybe from a personal point of view in this is when I walked the property line of the 14 acres early on, just to get a vision, a feel of what this land was like, how much area it covered. Discovered all kinds of stuff. Creeks and, when I say ravines, places that were 8 feet deep and 6 feet across. Openings in the ground.
If you don't believe it, look at the tract over in the middle of it, right again. You thought that it wasn't a place that big. If you put a tractor in it, you can see it.
That's right.
Yeah. When I think about describing the place, I think about, and I'm really happy now that I have them. I have photos from our first walkthroughs so that we could see, again, what the restaurant, what this room looked like, and what the thrift store looked like. People keep talking about the game room, and the game room has just gone away and disappeared. And I remember the excitement that we sort of had when Ken discovered we have windows in the thrift store. I remember the time that I think Ken and Linda were with us when we explored the garage and tried to envision, could the garage be a thrift store, or we just weighed all the possibilities. And so that's just, we we're describing the place and discovering connections. We just explored the property, you know. And then I think Linda hit on something, because she's talking not just discovering the physical things. She's talking about taking that vision and connecting it with people to see if they can see the vision or if they can understand what we're trying to do. And Mike, I think, touched on the spirituality of it. Is I think that even in the beginning, we were starting to see that this was a thin place. And I think that's what pushed us over the edge. But I think I don't think we jumped into this lightheartedly. I think we did discern the call. We thought about what could be here. And ask ourselves, are we being called to this place? Because we've had other failures. We had the whole grocery store failure, where we invested ourselves in a vision of building a church in an old grocery store, and that went bust. We had a vision of operating a Christian cafe, and that we invested a lot of ourselves into that, and that went bust. So it's not like we hadn't failed before, and I think that we didn't want to just jump in. So I think, you know, as I learned about these different D's, I could see where we've done them all. We just didn't know they had a name. You know, that somebody could cast a vision to call this process a contextual engagement process. We just thought we were just sitting around thinking about it. And I really do think that we dreamed this preferred future. And I think that we did that before we bought the property. I think that we did it again. I think that we did all of those steps again every time we make a big decision. And the very last one was the heat. We didn't just say, oh, I think we'll just go borrow some money and get a new furnace. No, we tried to fix these 30-year-old units the best that we could. We tried every avenue. We borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, and we tried to make it work. And we're living on space heaters. And I just think that we really dreamed up our 3 phases before we bought the property, and when we bought the property, of what should we do first, and how would this work, and what should we do second, and what should we do third. We did on a smaller. Do you have something, Betty? Am I just rambling?
When we went into this, when we got into the building and all, we knew we had old furnaces. We knew that was coming. You know, that would be something we'd have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Everything about the Journey Ministries is all started with a dream, every step of the way. From meeting at Jetersville Church, to open a new church, to open a thrift store first, that was a big dream. To open a new church, that was a big dream. To move to the old grocery store was a big dream. Like you say, we put nearly 2 years into that for it to pay. We are good at dreaming. We are very good at dreaming.
What if that wouldn't have failed, you wouldn't have came here?
I know. And this is the better, I mean, hindsight, we see this is more us than a big auditorium that would sit empty a big part of the time. I think about dreaming and making a plan. Even I go back to Ken's whiteboard and listing all the jobs and erasing each one, but having a plan of these are the things that we need to tackle.
Fun to erase them.
Really. And so then we decided to act, which we made a decision to purchase this property. And doing it, I calculated out that our renovations took 1 year and 8 months, because we purchased the property in April 2016, And we really finished in December of 2017. And that's a year and 8 months it took to do it. We've done what we just chewed one piece at a time.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it by ourselves. I can't think of a single person in Journey that hasn't been involved in the process. Some every day, some intensely at certain times and not so much at other times. But everybody got involved. And we sometimes force that by saying, today's mission meal, you will be measuring and taping the walls. This mission meal, you will be hauling out furniture, and so on. But with everybody involved, we got it done. Some people carried a lot more of their share of the burden than others, but I think that would be true in anything. And the last phase is this debriefing, this reviewing and evaluating. And I think, so when do you think that that's happened, and how do you think that's happened? That we've sat back and looked at what we've done and decided about that. Is your chair falling apart, Betty?
So drink.
Had a bead in my shoe picks up gravels and beads.
I think that happened when we had our first church here. The first Sunday that we had church here is when we, finally realized, half, 2/3 of the dream has come true, and there's hope for the rest of it.
Yeah. That's good.
I think we debrief and reevaluate, I think is what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do that every time we have a board meeting and a leadership team meeting.
So we do it monthly.
Yeah, at least monthly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for some of us, it's a daily. It's, as you said, the whiteboard list. It's a daily. Evaluate the board, take off what we can take off, debrief it, and what do we need to add to it?
I think about I think it was just last week. It could have been the week before. It all runs together. But Mike and I had struggled over, he came to me and said, we have to have a permanent church sign. The banner's ruined. Can't take it anymore. Our church deserves better than that. And so we researched, and it was so expensive, and then so we came up with our own homemade plan. But when we brought that plan to the table, what we got was really good input, especially between Ken and Amy, about Amy's experience of this company will make a sign at a reasonable price, and welding, the metal, this will hold it together better. These ideas, better than our 2x4 idea. And so that's just one project where we went through a process of working it out together. And I think that that's critical to what we're doing here, is that we've done that with project after project after project of trying to make it better. I thought that we really got a good debriefing at our December leadership board meeting, because we had the outside, Chris being an outsider, being the lawyer on our board, and seeing it from the outside and saying, you did it. This is and we really spent that meeting celebrating, because she could see what we had done. That was really awesome. It happened to me this week. Yesterday, I had a deadline to meet. To be Virginia Advanced Special, to be designated as an official charity, so to speak, by the Virginia Conference, you have to reapply every year. And the deadline was yesterday. So, I looked, before Mike went to his meetings, I looked at the financial piece, and I went, oh, there's a lot to report here, so I asked him to do that before he left, because I knew this deadline would come up while he was gone. So he did all the financial piece, and the rest, I thought, just describe things, I can do that. So I pulled out last year's application, and it blew me away. I couldn't just put what we put last year on the application because we had done it all. It was all finished. And what joy it was to write about all of our successes. I just took every item that we wrote about last year. Think about it, January last year, we hadn't moved the thrift store. We thought we would. We hadn't moved the church. We thought we would. We weren't anywhere. We were just an idea.
We didn't have occupancy in any of the buildings.
No, we had no occupancy. Nothing was finished. Thrift store wasn't finished. Church wasn't finished. We couldn't move. And to be able to say we've even opened the restaurant, every single item on our list was checked off. And to me, that was just writing that grant for this year, that application thing was amazing. Amazing. And I think that evaluation of our original vision, where we talked about we wanted to be a church of 500, and to come to the realization that our vision of 500 wasn't necessarily God's vision of 500. You know, I was thinking, I didn't write about that in the application, I don't think, but in my mind I was thinking, think of how many children got jeans, or shoes, or meals in a backpack. Just because we're not doing that one backpack program now doesn't mean we didn't do it for 5 years and touch all those lives. So, 80 kids at a time. And then think, I just add that to all of our community events. The community service workers who come and work at the thrift store and report that this is the best environment they've ever worked in. And just the future. Like you said, this is where we are now, but what is the future of the people who are going to live on this property? It's easily 500 people are going to be touched. I think that we will have to reevaluate that and say, God, send us on a mission that's going to reach a lot more than 500 people. Anyway, so we described, we discovered, we discerned, we dreamed, and then we looked at our dreams and we decided to do it. We did it, and now we're just moving on to the next thing. And never stops. All right.
And hopefully it will never stop.
Right.
Yeah.
This is,
Oh, gosh.
that was the plus of getting 14 acres. Donna, you asked, most of this time I'm gone was devoted to the candidates who have come.